weeds. Okay, so I may have overreacted just a little bit there. I mean, nobody likes dealing with weeds. They're pretty annoying, they keep coming back, you know. They can be poisonous in some cases, but they also, some of them are beneficial. So I was always curious about just what the heck was growing in our yard, and I finally went and did some research, found a bunch of pictures to help me identify what was growing, and also, you know, learn how to deal with it. I thought it would be a really good thing to provide you with something like that, some more information, so that it'll help you try to control the weeds, because I mean, they're always going to be here. They'll keep coming back anyway. All we can really do is try to manage them however we can, whether it's putting down more mulch or trying some herbicides. You know, I like to use more of like a natural herbicides, some vinegar or something. You know, not adding a whole bunch of chemicals to our soil, or just coming out here and digging like I just was. So really, the types of weeds, of course, there are the perennials, which will just keep coming back. Thank you for the butterfly coming through our shot. And the perennials grow off of the root systems every year. As long as the roots are there in the soil, they'll just keep returning. So the annuals then reproduce by seeds. They will spread thousands of seeds everywhere, and that will just hang out in the soil over the winter and come right back. So there are different ways to deal with your different types of weeds. I wanted to start off, of course, with something very important, and that is poison ivy. I think it's crucial that everybody knows what poison ivy looks like, so that's why I wanted to start off with that. Quick story, when my wife and I bought the house, right where I'm sitting here, there was a big bush growing, and all entwined with it was a huge poison ivy vine. It was ridiculous, and I didn't know what it looked like at the time. It was actually when one of my wife's friends came over. She was really into gardening, and she saw it right away. She said, that's poison ivy, you got to do something about that. So we kind of freaked out, and I went and bought a specific poison ivy herbicide to get rid of it. Totally drenched the leaves. You can see these pictures here. Waited till it died and dried up, and of course the oils are still very potent then. You have to be really careful. I was careful, but it was hot, so I was not careful enough. I wasn't covered up enough. Just barely brushing the gloves that I was using, you know, trying to get bugs away from me, like right now. And yeah, wound up having a very fun summer. It was awful. So I think it's a really important thing for anybody. You know, if you have poison ivy growing in your area, we have it a lot here in the Midwest in Iowa, and if you look at these pictures, the leaves, they always grow in a 3-leaf pattern like this. That's very, once you really get to know what it looks like, you can identify it pretty easily. There are notches in the leaves a lot of times. It is a vine, so it will continue to spread and root itself everywhere. You have to try to get rid of all of it. I mean, it'll probably take a couple years. This is from back in the corner of our yard where I found a little of it growing. Anyway, that is probably one of the most potentially dangerous vines. I mean, it's an allergic reaction that a lot of people have. Obviously, I do. I would not suggest touching it to find out if you are. So moving on from that, more perennial weeds. We have Creeping Charlie. This is a very common one. It grows everywhere and roots itself. It's very invasive. You really just need to use a lot of mulch. Pull this stuff up whenever you see it. Don't put it in your compost because it will just root itself again. You'll keep getting it. Just throw it in the trash or out with your yard waste, as long as that is not going to city compost or anything. A really good one is white clover. Now this is in the legume family, along with these the edamame, soybeans, green beans, peanuts, peas. So they are known as a nitrogen fixer, the legume family. So they are great at getting nitrogen from the atmosphere. They put it into the soil where they're growing, and they do this. It's not the plant itself. It's a small it's a bacterium that grows on the roots, and it feeds on the atmospheric nitrogen that comes in through the plant, through the roots, and as a byproduct it turns that into a nitrogen that the plants can use for food. So that really helps the legumes themselves. There has been some varying information about how well they really help other plants, but I have read a bit about the mycorrhizal fungi that grow around the root systems of plants. They will form a network between the root systems of different plants. So if you have your legumes growing near anything else, they could potentially supply that nitrogen to the other plants via the fungi that are networked between the root systems. So those are really good. So something like white clover is part of that family, and it will it's a good ground cover. So I'm actually even thinking of using some of that in the garden, controlling it a bit, but using it to help bring in more nitrogen for the plants. So that's a good one that actually has a nice benefit, and we have a ton of it growing in the yard. Dandelions, of course, are one of the first things that you see. They kind of make your yard look terrible, but they are good for the bees because they're one of the first flowering plants that blooms, and so they're helpful to the bees, and of course they spread everywhere. You see them all over the place. They are also edible. I have not tried them myself, but you can cook with them, you can put them in salads, things like that. Also, we have tons of wild violet growing. This stuff has a very strong root system. You really kind of have to dig to get it up out of the ground, and try to get all the roots out. It does like to spread a bit. That's mostly what we have in our lawn. We don't have actually a whole lot of grass, but in the early spring it's actually pretty nice because they have these purple flowers, and you just have this sea of purple, and it looks pretty nice. But you still need to, if that's coming up in your garden, then it's also taking away nutrients from other things, and so you have to dig it up a little bit to get it out of there. And you probably don't want to compost that. At least you can maybe break off the leaves and leave those to kind of shrivel up on your on the ground, on the soil, to replenish the nutrients. But get rid of the roots. Throw those in the trash because they will just keep coming back. Another one that I found growing next to our garage is this bindweed. It is also a vine that will spread out quite a bit. It'll send out root systems pretty far from the main plant, and you'll have it growing up everywhere. So it can take a little time to a few years to keep finding all of it and pulling it up, getting rid of it. This is also something that you probably just want to throw in the trash because it will root itself very easily. It was growing up in between the siding and the wall over by our garage there, so that's not very nice. So that's it for the perennial weeds. At least this whole list is just mostly what we found growing in our yard. You may have different things in your area. This is in Iowa. We have a lot of these, and these are very common from what I've seen. So I'm sure you may have a lot of these too, but I'm trying to just focus on the things that we see the most and have the most problem dealing with. So then for annual weeds, we have the ever-present crabgrass. I have seen some things that said this is a perennial, but I believe that the way we have it growing, it's more like an annual. I mean, it's an individual root system for each one. It's very easy to pull up. So this stuff will spread everywhere. If you just pull it out of the ground and leave it sitting there, it will root itself again. So this is one of those things that you want to just get rid of. If you let it go to seed, it will produce thousands and thousands of seeds. So it's very invasive. It comes up everywhere. We tried to mulch quite a bit to keep it down, but it still comes up through the mulch, as you can see even in this picture. This is around our raspberries, and so it can be a bit difficult to control, but just keep mulching, keep pulling it up. And you know, you might not want to add this to your compost. You might just want to try to throw this in the trash too. And we also have some dayflower in some places. This is a bigger weed. It can grow pretty tall. It has some nice blue flowers on it, which that they're small, but you know, it does look nice. We don't have a ton of it, but this is kind of behind our compost pile here, and we haven't seen a whole lot of it coming up in the garden. You might have a lot more of this where you are. Again, this stuff is, as it gets bigger, it's actually fairly easy to just pull out of the ground, and it's, again, reproduces by seed. So try to get it before it gets too big, before it goes to seed, and you won't have to deal with it too much anymore. Some of it you can at least get rid of the roots, and then maybe just compost the rest of the plant that is not going to root itself or reproduce in any way. You know, if it hasn't gone to seed yet, you can try to make use of those nutrients that the plant is taking from the soil. And that goes for a lot of these weeds. You can probably try to use just parts of them, just the leaf parts you can scatter around to just let them shrivel up on the soil and provide those nutrients again. Then we also have lamb's quarter. This we have in some areas. It spreads pretty well. Again, it's very easy to pull up because the stem itself is a little tougher, a little stronger, so you can just grasp that toward the base and pull them up. So that's basically the worst of what we have to deal with here. Mostly working in the garden, I try to keep it to just digging things up and not use any herbicides in here, not even you know, a vinegar solution, especially not anything that has like vinegar and salt in it. The salt will totally ruin the soil, and you won't be able to grow anything there really at all anymore, and you definitely don't want to do that. So I try to keep all that stuff out of the garden area and just deal with the tediousness of coming through here regularly and digging things up. It is a little bit out of hand right now. And we've had some really hot days, and I just don't want to be out here, today included. But it's just an ongoing process to try to control them. You know, you can keep using a lot of mulch to keep them down. That it works really well, but it's not a 100% solution. You will still have to pull things up. At least the more you mulch, that will keep the soil soft and moist, and it'll make it easier to pull up the weeds that do come up. So I do strongly recommend mulching a lot, and keep your herbicides and things to the rest of your lawn if you're trying to get rid of a lot of those weeds. I did find a pretty good solution that I haven't tried yet, but it's vinegar and salt and dish soap. A lot of people like to use that because the dish soap will help it stick to the leaves, and the salt and vinegar will just kill everything else. And you can use that in the rest of your yard where you're not worried about things not growing again. Or really, you should probably stick to just using that in like your driveway, or in certain areas where you really don't want anything to grow. Or if you do get rid of it, if you're gonna put a flower bed there or something, you can replace it with some good fresh soil. So that's it, at least for what we have growing here in Iowa. And let me know below if you have certain methods that work for you, if you have anything different that's growing in your area, any questions about how you should deal with such and such, please comment below. As always, please subscribe for more videos that I'll have coming out in the future. I'm happy to hear any feedback about the videos, anything that you don't like about it or like about it. I'm always trying to improve how I do them. I want these to be really helpful to all of the people watching. I know there are people all over the world who use YouTube to figure out how to do things and watch videos like this, so I want to help as much as I can. So let me know in the comments below any feedback that you have, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.